Hi, this is Dr. Helen Sue from Hella Mental Health, and this is part 2 of talking about coping and staying mentally healthy, even in the face of anti-Asian hate and harassment like in current times. So the last video I talked about immediate coping, stress management, calming and grounding skills, and today I want to talk a little bit about like medium length interventions for yourself to improve coping. So what does that mean? So things like number 1, build healthful habits. This is a good time to work on healthy, tiny habits for your own mental and physical well-being. Most of us have things that we want to build into our schedule more, like doing more meditations, more positive affirmations, more walking or movement, and maybe we haven't incorporated that. But in the face of stressors like we're dealing with that are very serious, this is even more important than ever. Good sleep hygiene, good nutrition, little things that we can do to build healthful habits. And I'll put it in the link, some tips on how to incorporate habits in small steps, because it is really hard. There's a reason most of us don't make these changes. It's hard to do, establish a new habit without support. That's why people do things like smoking cessation group, Weight Watchers, and things like that. So there are apps and there are maybe groups and there are tips for how to establish healthy lifestyle habits to fortify yourself. The other thing is that connection is more important now than ever. When you're feeling overwhelmed, attacked, anxious, unsafe, in addition to fight and flight, humans also have evolved needs to tend and befriend. So there's a reason when something bad happens, we really want to talk to somebody and share and process. So connection is important, whether that's physical, if you're able to have gatherings, or online to discuss with people some of what you've been feeling and get some validation and some ideas. That networking is really important. Finding our allies, people who can understand and want to be helpful to us. And that ties into the third thing, which is speaking up. That especially as Asian Americans, there's been a tendency to just try to work hard and keep your head down was often the advice we were given. But with the relentless attacks and the slurs and the lack of safety, it's really important actually to speak up right now. Whether that may be in your community, there may be rallies and events going on, or even online things, Zoom events. But it's important that you feel heard right now, because one of the things that happens sometimes when we're really feeling targeted and attacked is we can actually get gaslighted by people who say, oh, it's not that bad. Oh, I don't think that's a real thing. And that actually increases the hurt when something hurtful has happened. And now on top of that, we're being invalidated. We're being told that we're, delusional or overreacting. Speaking up is really important. Being able to be heard, to share your reality with people who may not understand. And next is to learn that a lot of Asian Americans in places I've been talking with right now have said they don't really understand the history of race relations, of our own cultural heritages, of our very different stories in the United States, whether we came as immigrants 5 generations ago, or very recent immigrants, or were we third culture kids, or were we refugees or American born, that if you didn't take Asian American history, you probably don't know a lot. And learning helps because it helps us to make sense and understand the context of things that happen. And so it feels a little bit less out of control when we feel like we understand. So this is a great time to do some reading, add some things to your reading list, maybe in your book group. I know people with reading groups at work or in their community who are really trying to learn and make sense of the times that we're in a context historically. This is also a great time if you've considered seeking professional counseling or therapy as a medium-term intervention. That, well, maybe you can kind of manage, most of us kind of get through without seeking professional therapy. But as I always say, why do things the hard way if you don't have to? If there's someone that can provide you that confidential place to talk about what's on your mind. Because sometimes we don't want to share with the people in our lives because they may not understand, they may get stressed out, or we're not sure that they'll keep it confidential like the way a therapist would, or they don't have the professional breadth of knowledge that maybe would be helpful for you right now. As a therapist, I always say, you are always the professional in your life and your experiences, but what the professional therapist can bring, besides all the years of training and the thousands of hours, is also that hive mind experience, right? The wisdom of many, many, many different people over the years to help you have better consultation, to make decisions, and know about coping. And finally, for medium-term intervention, just thinking about how to get involved. The worst part about feeling harassed, stereotyped, misunderstood, harmed is sometimes just that feeling of helplessness that creates more negative feelings of rage or shame. And getting involved in whatever small way works for you, or thinking about what are the longer term things I can do, and we'll talk about longer term in the next video, is a really good way of reclaiming your agency. Maybe it is, I'm going to write an op-ed in my local paper, or I'm going to go talk to my school board about what are they doing to prevent bullying of marginalized kids, whether Asian American or all kids, right? That we have a lot of shared struggles with different communities. Or maybe my getting involved is I'm going to stop the next time people say things, jokes that are not funny, that are racist. Maybe I'm going to go to a rally, or I'm going to teach my kids, I'm going to buy some books about our history, or about valuing like equity and diversity. So whatever it is that you can feel can be a little bit of getting involved to make things better in your church, your family, your community, that's also a way of regaining agency and fighting back and improving coping. That don't take negative experiences and things that cause fear, anxiety, and rage and just internalize them and stuff them. That's like probably the worst thing health-wise to do. Build your healthful habits, make connections or strengthen or reestablish connections right now. Speak up, learn more about the context of what's going on and our place in it. Think about professional therapy, even if it's very brief. If you've got benefits especially, definitely take full advantage of that. And if you don't and funding's an issue, there are community-based organizations or some free services available. And think about how you can get involved and take more initiative to be a part of the solutions to these problems. And we'll talk more about maybe long-term ways to fight back against anti-Asian hate and harassment and improve your coping long-term next time. But hopefully these medium-length interventions are things you can kind of add to your life on top of the immediate short-term ones we talked about last time. And I'll put some resource links as well in the video description. Take good care of yourself and practice some of these things, and hopefully some of them will stick. You can add it to your repertoire.